You notice there's a windmill here. That is the first warning sign of folk art. And my little house is filled from top to bottom, so please come on in. I'm Mike Smith, and this is At Home Gallery. And this is the living room, obviously, and you'll see a great number of pieces of artwork. And I guess the umbrella that covers it all is that most of these artists are self-taught. They had no formal training. You were looking at this painting slash photograph of Howard Finster. He's probably one of the better known artists from a populist standpoint. I did a project early on with artists of a combination of my photography and their artwork. And Howard was nice enough to actually paint on one of my photographs. So that's a sacred possession that will never leave the house until I do, I guess. James Harold Jennings, who is the artist that's pictured up here on the wall, he was North Carolina's probably best known artist. Between him and Minnie Evans, who was an artist that lived in Wilmington, James was probably the most primitive living circumstances of any artist I've ever met. He literally lived in a little enclave of school buses. No running water, no electricity. He was on a permanent camp out. He had cats all over the place and a little campfire year round, and he slept in a school bus. And he started out by making windmills, and people got interested. And again, a lot of times these guys are just doing their own thing because they enjoy doing it, and other people come in and look, and he was extremely successful. I asked him one time, why didn't he do more traveling and more shows away from his own environment? And he said, well, I don't have to go somewhere to be an artist. He said, people come to me. And it was true. I saw Japanese film crews there, celebrities, local people, all who collected his work. So he was one of my big inspirations to get into this field. If you want to walk with me over here, I'll show you. Again, don't call it At Home Gallery for nothing, because everything is in every part of the house. One of the things that makes folk art so much fun to collect is it's still reasonable in cost, and it's internationally known. And there are many, many artists here that have become popular over the years and recognized as such. Here's another photograph from my photo show with artists, an artist named R.A. Miller, who lived in Gainesville, Georgia. And R.A. was very enthusiastic about working with me and making a frame and painting the frame, so I was excited about that. A lot of these people get absorbed into the popular culture and their connections to popular music. For instance, in R.A.'s case, the rock band REM came in and did a video on his property. You'll see that is not an unusual intersection. There's an outsider folk art show in New York every year, and you'll see him represented as well as a lot of the other artists that are here. I was talking to someone about what it was like to sell things that you love, and it took a little while from the transition from being a collector to getting into the business. But after a while you realize that anything that sells, you replace it with a different piece by the artist. So it's like constant entertainment and constant decoration. There are a few things that are sacred that I won't sell, but primarily this is the way I chose to do business, like it or not. I was working in a sales organization that traveled all over the Southeast, called on mass merchandisers like Walmart. I sold everything from folding furniture to crazy glue. And I enjoyed the traveling a lot more than I did the sales part of it. And I would start hearing about artists in different areas of the state in North Carolina. Before you know it, I was visiting them. I would pick up a piece of art and come home, and my friends and family would say, "Oh, that's so cool. I want one of those." And so back to the artist. It got to the point where I was doing a lot more visiting with the artist than I was my job. So at one point, I finally decided, after having a long conversation with Howard Finster, the artist in Georgia that was so well known, that this would be something I could get involved in. And it also, I was able to incorporate my photography, which I enjoyed doing. So that's kind of what got me started. If I had to do it all over again, I'd probably be a lot better off financially if I'd stayed in the rep business. But, you got to do what you feel like you need or want to do and follow your heart from there. And one of the things I really enjoyed doing when I first started with this business is meeting people and traveling and being able to photograph and eating with them, going to church with them, talking to them. And it just had a lot more personal connection than you would going into a sterile contemporary gallery where, you kind of feel like you've stepped in something if you don't know who the artist is. That would be the connection between at home and visiting the artist at their individual home.
Did he make that for you?
Yes, he did. Yeah, that was a piece that James Harold did for my at-home gallery. He, again, like you said, was one of my number one inspirations. He would sign everything with his signature, James Harold Jennings, and then underneath his signature, he would draw a little stylistic sun and moon and stars. And those, he said, were the only permanent things. So I had a tattoo that is a direct copy of his signature. I remember going to the tattoo artist. He said, "I can make a lot better sun and moon." I said, No. I want it to be just like this. So that's my only tat. Well, thanks again for coming by and having the mini tour. If you're ever in Greensboro, North Carolina, and you want a personal tour, and give me a call, or you can check out my website, www.athomegallery.com. Also, I'm on Instagram, and I love having people over. So please, you're welcome if you want to come. Thank you. I'm going in the house now.